Um, all right. Hello, dear colleagues. I hope you can hear me well. Can anybody write in the chat box how is it with the connection today? Can you hear? All right. Shall we start? Okay. Everything is fine. Thank you very much for your comments already. Right, colleagues, I'm very much happy to be here today and to receive you at our session. And as you have already registered for the webinar, you know that we are going to speak some of the tricks how to bring the language to life. And we would look at first our agenda for today's webinar, and that is speaking about speaking skills. We would look at some of the challenges, and we would also look at activities for different ages, starting pre-primary school, primary school, and lower secondary and secondary schools. And certainly we would look at some of the resources which would help us to implement those ideas. And I would like to start today's webinar with a quotation from Herbert Buchter, who said that language learning is not just about languages, it's about how the brain remembers best, about content that appeals to the students. It's about helping students to feel they can do it. And probably the last quotation is, the last phrase is the most important one, that they can do it, they can speak they can speak the language. So we will speak about developing speaking skills, and we would look at some activities for classes at different levels. Speaking about the preliminary definition, let's first of all understand what is a good oral fluency activity. And let's imagine that you have just come out of teaching a class where there was an extremely successful oral fluency activity. Now, what were its main characteristics in terms of actual events? What did you see? How did you feel? And what did you hear? If you could just very quickly type your ideas in the chat box. I know it might be quite a challenging task, but if you have got any, I would be happy that you might share your successful experience. All right, it seems everybody is just trying to recall on the experience. Anyway, let's move on to the next slide, and let's imagine that some of the characteristics of successful communication, successful speaking, is when students were talking in the class in English the whole time. And okay, I can see that somebody's writing that feel my fluency boosted. Yeah. Hi Claire, it's nice still to hear you again. And okay, so they appeared to be motivated and enjoying, and everybody in the class was motivated and participating fairly evenly, and that their English was reasonably correct and acceptable. So these are the characteristics. Yes, thank you everybody who has been writing. The students have been motivated, looked very happy, absolutely right, and the teacher was rewarded, and good students were encouraged. And yeah, could be successful mutual interaction between students, quick and clear discussion at 3. Okay, so these are some of the absolutely right characteristics for a successful speaking class. So, but this ideal situation may not always be the case in practice. And what are some of the problems? Could you please now type in the chat box the problems that you have encountered in your practice? What is it that makes speaking so challenging? Any problems there? All right, some students are shy, yeah. Language barrier, yeah, students are afraid of making mistakes, lack of vocabulary, unknown words. All right, thank you everybody. Thank you everybody for the ideas. Yes, lack of appropriate language. Okay, perfect. So, and probably to summarize the problems that you have been already typed in the chat box, that yes, students are shy, and most of them are afraid of, feel reluctant of making mistakes, and most of them would rather use the first language, or the first language is impeding. And the teacher talking time, we haven't mentioned, I haven't seen that, but we teachers are most of the time carried away by explaining and bringing some examples, and we are taking more time than giving the opportunity to our students. This is something also very commonly met during the English classes. And as you already mentioned also, there might be lack of motivation, and not all the students would be willing to participate in a certain discussion. So what can help? Some ideas that, first of all, if we are introducing a topic which is relevant to their experience and which is motivating, then it's obviously quite possible that most of the class would be interested in participation. And another issue is that we have to think about how achievable the task is. And one more thing is the language at or below students' level. Like we said, they might not have enough vocabulary or enough language to be able to express those ideas. And certainly we have also to speak about group and pair work. So let's look at several types of fluency activities that might work. So activities that are based on tasks, activities based on text learned by heart, and game-like process. It's always quite motivating when there is any kind of competition, and certainly at higher levels, presentations. So one of the most important issues here is that there should be also not only an interesting topic, but also should be a purpose. The purpose in the classroom is the activity, yeah, that we offer in the form of the task. So, and another interesting and important issue, we have always to think, what is the outcome? What are we expecting that our students would demonstrate? Are they going to decide on something? Or are they going to create a list or draw a picture or come up with a solution? And the next important issue that it should be meaningful. The focus should be on meanings rather than correcting the language. Okay, so let's look at some examples of tasks, and some of them might be, I'm more than sure that in your course books or in your teaching experience, you use some of these tasks. For example, find and list the differences between two pictures. This is quite typical, especially to the Camridge qualifications. There are lots of tasks comparing and contrasting the pictures. And another task might be create a story, decide on the solution, plan an event, and decide as a group what on points of which you agree or disagree, depending if there is a controversial situation or there is a controversial statement. And one of the tasks we said that might be text learned by heart. One of the good bases for early fluent speech, because at the beginner level, we can't really expect a lot of creation of new of a monologue. So we would rather focus on models of the language, and the dialect might be one of the options here. And the advantages of learning by heart text or learning the dialects is that it is boosting their motivation and giving them this feeling that they can talk in English and be understood and responded. And certainly, we are also developing pronunciation skills and their feeling of stress and intonation. Other examples, which are also very important in terms of motivating your students, as we said, might be the dialects, jazz chants, rhymes and stories, or short sketches and plays. We would look at some of these examples a little bit later in my presentation during the course of our session. So game-like activities are especially important for the younger children, for the younger learners, as speak not just in order to achieve a clear outcome, but they are also doing it for fun. For example, say things about a picture. You can start with simple structures, like there is, there are, and this is the first step. And then you might want to ask them to use or to say as many sentences as they can within a minute. Within 2 minutes. So whenever you are changing the task type and making it more involving more children and encouraging competition, then it's becoming more motivating for the students to participate. So, and a game-like challenge involves a task which has clear, achievable goal. For example, say 5 sentences or say 10 sentences. Or you can put a time limit. Yeah, you have got 1 minute or 2 minutes for those sentences. And also, these type of tasks are open-ended and they are success-oriented. Some more examples: guessing games, reverse guessing, or don't say yes or no. There are lots of other games, and I think if you are familiar with 5-minute activities, there are lots of other interesting ideas there by Penier. Presentations, if we are speaking for the learners of English at a higher level, for example, at intermediate or upper intermediate level. Presentations usually are prepared ahead of time, and they are supported by visual materials. And usually it is, as already I said, for more advanced classes. Some more examples for the advanced classes might be research project, a book or movie review, commercial promotion. Again, it depends for higher groups, more other projects. So speaking about resources and examples, let's look at some of the Camridge materials at different levels. And certainly, if we are speaking pre-primary kids, most of you might be familiar with the course which is called Super Safari. This is a 3-level course, and for children aged 3 to 5, 6 years old. And the book offers great, lovely characters, which helps the small kids to feel more safe in the learning environment. And besides these characters, I don't know why it has been doubled some of the slides. That's interesting. Okay, I'm just very quickly checking to the. Okay, this one I have already mentioned. I'm sorry about this. Okay, yeah, and here the characters which are featured in that course might be used for further language use, like Hi Polly the parrot, and it might be a game organized in the class or at home with the help of the parents. For example, tell your mommy or daddy where the parrot is, yeah, or where the polly is, using prepositions behind, on top, underneath, in, between. All right. Some other activities from this book are for the giving children options and cases when children can always make their decisions, make their choices, make a mixed color painting, dividing, again, giving the children the chance to choose the colors, to create the patterns and sketches. So at this very simple level, and certainly speaking for primary children, we can't ignore the role of the songs and stories, playing memory games. So speaking about primary school students, again, you might be absolutely familiar with 3 titles, Guess What, Kids Box, and Superminds. And here on this table, you can see the differences. And the main difference is probably here is that they are of different intensity. For example, the most intensive one is Superminds, which is a 7-level course and would bring your students to level B1. And again, the characteristics of these course books are for different purposes, certainly. And speaking about Superminds, for example, as you can see, one of the examples from the book about the lunchtime, and what the tasks are given step by step, and they are kind of including different developing different skills here, like reading and drawing lines. It's about understanding the language and understanding and matching the bubbles with the pictures. But the next task is the most important one. When understanding the language and knowing the language and choosing the language, they are able to speak about themselves. For example, choose your lunch here and find a friend with the same lunchbox. So it's going to be interaction between the group of small children, but then it's, as we said, it's fun and there is purpose to find someone with similar taste. And the next one is practicing more in a more safe environment, and the task has got certain purpose. And certainly, it's also about sharing for children being able to be able to create and to share whatever they have created. I'm really sorry for my cough. It has been the last couple of days quite difficult. With I think everybody having being down with flu. All right. So let's look some other examples. We are speaking about the language, and teaching grammar is one of the parts of language development. And in this on this slide, we are focusing on grammar. The structure can, yeah, are, you, he, she, can. I'm sorry about this. Okay. And that there are different tasks. Listen and repeat. It's like the first stage of introduction with the language. And then say the chant for practice. Listen and answer, understanding and comprehension. And there are extra reinforcement worksheets with the structure. I can ride a bike, I can play football, I can't swim, so negative and positive structures here. And then you can see more reinforcement worksheets and the word cards. So you are helping students to build up the language. I'm sorry. And as you can see, the outcome is there is a conversation between the students. Can you sing? Yes, I can. Another activity we said that is using the stories in the language class. And another possibility is acting out and imitating the characters. In my own practice, children love the story of Marie, Maskman, and the friends there and their adventures. So it was real fun for the children, and they were imitating the intonation, the stress, and the sound. So it was not only pure imitation, it was also fun and an excellent experience. Okay, speaking about the resources for the teacher and for the student, all the books for primary school children are with online resources. And then in online resources, you would be able to find lots more activities and games for developing speaking skills and helping them to become more confident in speaking. For the teachers also, there is a presentation plus with all the resources in one place. And when I'm saying all the resources in one place, as you can see here, there is the pupils book fully with all the activities for interactive whiteboard, and activity book and teachers resources with teachers book, photocopiable materials, flashcards, and multimedia library, because there are lots of videos and the worksheets for video. So lots of activities for developing speaking skills. As I said, all the products, all the titles here have got the presentation plus for the interactive whiteboard. And if you are lucky to have really new technologies, advanced technology in your class, then it would be great really to use those possibilities. Another interesting series is Super Grammar, which might be added to any course book. Here, grammar is practiced, but again, it's more in a more meaningful way and in a more fun way. If you are preparing your students for young learners qualifications, so these titles might help you very much. And those who have been teaching for young learners qualifications, they know that speaking part is quite a challenging part of the exam. One of the most challenging part, I would rather say. And if you are really experiencing those challenges, you might want to consider these titles. I am again speaking about those teachers who have just started preparing for Cambridge exams, for Cambridge qualifications. But for those of you who have been already involved in Cambridge English project, I'm sure you know these titles, and most of you are using these titles on a regular basis. And Story Fun is one of my favorites because it actually offers lots of activities, fun activities, project work, and extra speaking practice. Again, this book would be great even though you might not be preparing for Cambridge qualifications, but if you are fostering reading and you are looking for developing reading skills and speaking skills, listening and writing, then you might want to have a look at this title as well. Why the stories are so important in our language teaching practice, because we teach them not only to the language, but we also help them to develop such skills like prediction, being able to revise the language and recycle the language, interact between each other, contextualize the language, and more engaging, fun ways. If we are speaking about developing the vocabulary, as most of the teachers today in the chat box mentioned that children might be willing to speak and participating, but they all feel quite a lack of vocabulary, lack of words. So how these words can be also revised and recycled in a fun way, you might again want to look at Primary iDictionary, where there are lots of games, stories, and ideas for the language revision. Or you might also consider an app which is called Word Fun World, and your students who are preparing for starters, movers, and flyers qualifications might find different games there, like matching the pictures to the words, unlocking new words, and as they complete each step, each level, they can move on higher level and review the words and compare their scores with their friends. So it's all very motivating and engaging, I think. Both they learn the new words, they become more confident, and then there is this competition, which is absolutely motivating. Again, most of you, as I said, might be using all these titles, but if not, then please pay attention to this slide. And if you are willing to prepare for Cambridge qualifications, young learners exam, then you might want to use any of these titles. So speaking about the secondary school, again, where to find materials regarding Cambridge. At that point, we are offering 3 titles: More, Your Space, and Eyes Open. Again, with the primary levels, these titles are for different purposes, and they are for different intensity classes. And for example, Eyes Open, which is the latest title in the series, is very rich in videos. There are 4 videos in each unit, and they spark the students' curiosity and foster more meaningful learning. Sometimes the children are reluctant of speaking, the students are reluctant of speaking because they either do not have the experience or they need support with their ideas. So these videos would be quite easy to use and easy to integrate in your speaking practices. And here you have got some example pages from the book, Eyes Open. So as we said, there is a video which features English teenagers answering a specific question linked to the unit topic. And there is a small comprehension task. For example, here, watch or listen to the teenagers complete the sentences with what each person is saving up for. Hear about how wise the students are in saving and spending their pocket money. And the next question here, that after this small comprehension question, the students are encouraged to answer the same question as teenagers in the clip. So now it says, are you saving up for something special? What? And this is about, helping the students to build, first of all, to build on the ideas which they see in the video clip. And certainly, again, we are speaking about the language. The useful language is provided in the task. And it is not only for speaking, but also for the writing lessons as well. The course book offers useful language in chunks to develop fluency, and it is less time consuming, when the language is in the chunk and they try to use them in certain situation. So, and there is certainly a model, a clear model is provided also for speaking tasks. And here you can see now some more tasks to come to the last outcome of this speaking activities. That decision to be made, how to raise money for the class end of year trip. So the students have to work with a partner and plan their own conversation using the useful language that was provided earlier, using the model dialogue, again learning about ways of agreeing, disagreeing, and now they have to make a decision, to come to a decision. And the possibilities, again, the ideas are given here, are provided here. The sponsored cycle ride, selling lottery and lottery tickets with a prize, or selling food at school break. So there are some ideas which the students can develop on and come to some kind of agreement. Another if we are moving higher for the age group of 13 to 18 years old, there are two titles that you would find interesting. For example, English in Mind might not have all the new digital resources that Think can offer. And that might be the only difference in those two titles. And here I have got another example from Think course book. It says the whole topic is that laughter is the best medicine. And here again, when working on speaking skills, when developing speaking skills, it is very important that we are also keeping balance of reading and speaking. And we in the task that is the first one, you can see it says rank these situations from most important to least important or least enjoyable for you. So it's all about understanding, discussing, expressing their preferences or sharing their ideas or opinions. And the next task is work in pairs and discuss the following questions. So it's all about trying to motivate the students, to encourage students to express their ideas and to involve in the discussion. And the students again are given here. If in Eyes Open we saw that the input is done with the help of the video, while in Think for this speaking task there is a whole text to provide the input for the ideas. And again, the speaking task is finished with an outcome. It says work in pairs and discuss. How many ideas can you come up with for each one? So again, there is going to be a discussion of ideas and being able to agree or disagree and to come to a certain conclusion. As you can see, speaking activities might not be only challenging, but they might be also great fun. If you think about the students' age group, about their interests, about introducing a variety in the ELT class, using videos, using games and competition, so it would make the learning speaking and practicing speaking more fun. And on the next slide, I just can say that had fun teaching, talking or speaking, and listening to your students talking. So if you would like to have a more closer look to all the titles that I have somehow mentioned in today's presentation, you might want to go to cambridge.org/ELT/RU, where you would be able to see more details on those titles, or you would be able to use even some of the free resources that are on the home page of each of the course books. So this is it for today. I would like to say thank you to everybody. And here are my contact details. I'm sorry that I didn't read your questions in the chat box, but my colleagues promised that they would once again look through the chat box and send me the questions. Still, there we have got a couple of minutes. If you have got any questions, you can write them now. I'd be happy to answer to some of them. Thank you, everybody who has joined, and I hope this webinar was useful for most of you. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you so much. And I'm really sorry for my cough and for the technical, probably, problems, as usual.